Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Still a little bit swollen, still a little bit poorly. I know I'm looking rough. I do need to kind of sort myself out a little bit, but I am still recuperating. Now, video, Maximus 6 Extreme update, and I'm kind of doing this because Linus, as in Linus of Linus Tech Tips, posted a video just recently about the conclusion that I come to about mega high-end boards. And it was something that I did want to kind of clarify and, you know, make my points very clear upon. Linus has got it pretty much spot on, but there's a couple of little bits that, from my own personal opinion, I'd kind of just like to kind of nail on a little bit. Before anyone starts, and I want to be perfectly clear, I'm not saying he said anything wrong. I'm not saying that he's done anything wrong. I'm not saying that his testing's wrong or anything like that, because it's not. It's absolutely spot on, and I'm actually quite flattered that someone's taken something that I've said on board like that. And I understand that loads of people had asked him, was I right? Was I wrong? All that kind of thing. So essentially, a massive big thank you to Linus for that. So yeah, I just want to kind of spin a few things on their head. Now, when that video, I got up this morning and literally everyone had inundated me with, oh my god, Tom, Linus has done this, Linus has done that, Linus has done this. So I thought, right, and I got the Maximus 6 Extreme out, put it back on the test bench. Now I have a basic solid state drive with the install on, with the basic stuff for Z87 anyway, and the drivers are essentially pretty much interchangeable. So I banged that on, made sure I used the new one that they sent me, because I've got two. I've got the original one with the shoddy BIOS on, and then I've got a new one. And the new one, I made sure I had the absolute up-to-date latest BIOS. Now, just to kind of remember, the problem was, the reason why I didn't like it before is Asus had sent me a BIOS which technically wasn't any good, and Asus have admitted now it was our fault. It was the BIOS. Do you know what I mean? We've looked at it. We know what we did wrong. But I was on I can't remember whether I was on my third or my fourth BIOS with them by that point, because the board wasn't performing as I expected. And you need to kind of understand that I've only got a limited amount of time, so I do have to kind of draw a line in the sand. At one point, they said that BIOS was, you know, pretty much tailored for me. It should have been perfect. So once they said that, I'd done so many other tests with the other BIOSes, I was like, I'm just going live with these results. I've had enough. It's not my place to do their research and development on the BIOSes for them. So they were the results that we went live with, and then later on, because I didn't like it and all that kind of stuff, it all went kind of skyward, and now we're back at this point. Now, I've retested the board very basically. I've done a few of the essential tests that we were looking at before, and done a little bit of the overclocking as well. Now, I would say this is now, performance-wise, as far as results are concerned, on par with the other Z87 boards that we've tested. Now, this is where it gets bloody complicated, and this is why I kind of wanted to make a video and kind of let you know about my points on this as well. All of the Z87 boards will pretty much perform almost exactly the same. As Linus has said, one of the game tests that he did, he had a 5% frame difference. I would almost go as far as to say, if he retested that again today, it may have been the same as the other one. Sometimes you do get a little bit of tolerance between runs. It can be as much as a difference. 5 frames a second can be the difference between playing a different section of a game. I don't know whether he used specific normal loop benchmarks or whether it was live gameplay, but I always use, if I have to use live gameplay because there's no benchmarks, we always play the same section to section, and if it's a benchmark, then you've not really got to worry anyway. But even with a benchmark run, you can gain an extra 2 or 3 frames per second just between runs. But anyway, so they will all perform pretty much identically. Now, it's not to say that the Rampage 6 Extreme isn't, it's an expensive board, because there is a lot more stuff on there, and it is technically more capable. But the point that I was trying to make previously is, if you were to take a lower end board like Linus did with that little Gigabyte Z87 mini ITX board, he got the same overclock out of his CPU and was getting nigh on the same scores from the 2 rigs than he did with a cheap ITX to a Maximus 6 Extreme. And that's because the CPUs now are or the products, sorry, the motherboards are much more able to get what you can do out of the CPUs. Back in the days of like X58 and stuff, if you bought a cheap motherboard, you'd get an average overclock. You bought the expensive motherboard to make sure you got a better overclock and make sure you got better memory speeds and stuff like that, because the more expensive motherboards did have more power phases, did have all this, and the CPUs did need it. Now, the CPUs are so efficient, they're almost limited by the actual kind of silicon lottery themselves. And by silicon lottery, I mean, I've got 4 770Ks here, and I've got one that will do just 4.6 gigahertz at 1.3 volts, and then I've got another one that will do 4.9 gigahertz at 1.26 volts. And the differences are very, very wide. Now, I could get both those clocks on both the same cheap-ass motherboard, and then if I stick them in an expensive motherboard, I will get the same overclock and get the same scores. And this is kind of the point. If you don't want to look inside your case, if you don't want, you just want your rig to work, I would say save your money, get one of the cheaper motherboards. As long as it's reasonable quality, then I would go with that and put whatever you're capable of your overclocking prowess, or whether you just want to run it as stock or not. Just bear in mind, if you run it as stock, you can undervolt it and it'll still work, and you'll get lower temperatures. But the essential, if you don't, you're not fussed about looks, and you just want it to work, the cheap end motherboard, you'll get the same kind of performance that someone would do that spent 3 times as much. If you want to spend more money, and let's face it, a lot of us do, because there was a lot of shitstorm that when I said about, I probably wouldn't have spent my money on this. If you buy one of the more expensive boards, you're technically, if you want to run dual cards, triple cards, quad cards, if you're fucking insane, because as Linus said, I would never tell you to be running 3 or 4 cards in a gaming system, really, mainly because the games don't really utilise it, or the drivers aren't that good, and you'll end up running into more problems than you do bonuses with the most of games. But it's more about aesthetics, it's about layout. Maybe it'll have slightly better audio, maybe it will have a PLX chip if you did want to be running multiple cards and stuff. And really, when it comes to the Maximus 6 Extreme, it technically is. It's not a gaming board really anymore. It's the type of thing that the BIOS gives you infinite amounts of options for overclocking. But for 99.99% of users, you won't ever be able to get the most out of it. An extreme overclocker with liquid nitrogen, cherry pick CPUs, cherry pick memories would need this board to get the most out of their, those extra 2 points can be the difference between being second place and a world record holder. Those type of people will need this rig. For the 99.99% of other people, this really is about a board that goes in your spec list. And that's like, it's an EPEAN thing. It's to say you've got one rather than the fact that you need one. Because as we've proved, the GD65 gaming and the Gigabyte M5, and I've got another board on the table at the moment, which is another MSI. I've got another Gigabyte that I've done, and all the results are sat there. All of the results are nigh on exactly the same. It really is just about what you get in the box, what it looks like, and is the layout going to be good for you? Do you like the look of it? That's all it really comes down to. So if you want to pay more money, Linus used a £120 ITX board. I kind of like the around the kind of, I think the sweet spot personally is around the kind of £150, £165 mark, because you do get the Gigabyte M5 in that perfect little MATX board, better audio, all that kind of stuff. Great little package. Also the MSI GD65 gaming, and with that you get it's probably one of the best looking best looking MSI boards to date. Nice and dark, little tiny red accents. You do get better audio on it as well. There's a lot of things there for around that price and package point, and they overclock like stink as well. They've maxed every chip out I've had, and I've had a few through it, and I keep, I've got stuff set up on different test benches, and even I've got an i5 that's quite capable at the moment that I've been, fettling around with, and you don't need a mega board to be able to get this, because the CPUs will normally hit a thermal limit before you've even started really pushing the volts anyway. Now, and this is, so we're saying that, do you know what I mean, if you want to get the Maximus 6, you are going to get roughly the same sort of performance as all the other ones, but it may be a good way for you to learn all those fucking stupid, intricate BIOS settings, because, you know, the stuff in this, even I don't understand what half of it is. I just leave most of it on auto. I'm no world record overclocker, and there wasn't a world record overclocker that had a little pop with me about the fact that I didn't do the uncore overclocking. And to be fair, I've done uncore overclocking now and redone all the benchmarks, and it's not made a blind bit of difference. We don't know why. We've tested 3 different boards now, and we've gone from a kind of like 3.9 gigahertz uncore up to 4.5, because our review CPU doesn't really like uncore that much, but 600 megahertz boost, and we're not really seeing any, you know, differences at all. All the graphs are pretty much, you know, there's handfuls of points between them. Now, you can see I've got the Maximus 6 formula here. Now, I have done a preview video on this. Now, I'm yet to, you know, kind of go into the prices and stuff like that, but this is probably the one I think is a nice little sweet spot between, you know, kind of the £160 boards and this 330 quid. I actually do like the armour on this because it's not active cooling, it's just there as a tarty thing. It's got that lovely back brace on the back, and it will probably, you know, I very much doubt whether the majority of people, because like we've already said, would notice the difference between this and this. So this is probably going to be, and there's also the Hero and the Impact and stuff as well, which I will be looking at in the not too distant future. But so, for me, if you're going to go Haswell and you're going to go i7, I would say, you know, spending around that sort of money, if you want to overclock, the GD65 gaming or the M5, that type of thing, the Gigabyte UD4, they're all going to be boards that are going to be a good investment for you, great build quality, good layout, good I/O on the back, good connections on the inside. They're all going to be pretty good boards for you. If you want to spend more money, then it really is going to be about EPing, it's going to be about aesthetics, and maybe if there's some features that come with it that you really, can't live without. But at the end of the day, it's your money. And I just want to stress that every single one of those boards will get the most out of your specific CPU, because you do need to remember the silicon lottery, and that's the most crucial thing here, is that with Haswell, when you start to overclock them and you start to push the volts, the temperatures rocket. Even with a H100i and 12 volt fans, I'm still hitting above 80 degrees, and I mean way above 80 degrees, even running voltages of like 1.26 volts. So that's and I know I'm lucky. I've got a very, very good CPU that will do 1.26 and it's stable at 4.9. I've spoken to retailers, and they're going through kind of hundreds of CPUs just to get a handful of CPU, you know, handfuls of them that will do 4.8. So another thing that I'll say here, if any of the retailers worldwide, if they're speed binning and they're selling you CPUs that will do guaranteed overclocks, first things first, that's brilliant because you know it's capable. But the thing that you need to always remember to ask is, what voltage does it require to be stable at that overclock? And 1.26 to 1.3 is a sweet spot. You start going above that point and you are going to need some seriously good cooling to keep that thing in check. Because if it does need a lot of volts and you've not got a lot of cooling, and bearing in mind, like I said, 1.26 volts, H100i, absolutely maxed out. I'm getting temperatures above 80 when it's on full load with OCCT. If you if it does need more volts than that, then you could very quickly get to the point where it's going to start thermal throttling, and it will get hot, and then it downclocks itself and turns all the voltage and all the clocks and everything down, waits for it to cool down a bit, and then it will speed back up again. And that's obviously pretty bad. You don't want it to be doing that when you're rendering and stuff, because your render times will go all over the place. So these are one of the reasons why, when we've been doing our reviews, we've kept our temperatures and overclocks to a nice sensible level, because these are the things that we would be expecting you to do at home. So hopefully I've covered, enough there now. So to just recap, because it is a video about the Maximus 6, but we've kind of gone into lots of other stuff about Haswell and boards and all kinds of stuff otherwise. Maximus 6 is a very capable board, but you'd have to be very talented and be getting cherry-picked CPUs and memory and all that kind of stuff to really be able to get the most from it. There's stuff in there that even I don't understand, and it would take me, it's the type of thing that I think you practically need classes on to be able to get the most from these things, and that's why there's not many world record overclockers out there. But the ones that are, doff my cap to you. You know you're shiznit boys, and you get my maximum respect. My point is, for the most of us, this thing is going to be about EPing, and I'm just kind of saying that you may be slightly better off spending slightly less money because you won't notice any performance difference. It's almost got to a point now, peeps, where buying a motherboard is about aesthetics. It's like water cooling. Water cooling just works as long as you put it together right, and you choose roughly the right bits and you get it in the right kind of order. Res pump is about basically all you need to do, but as long as you get it all tidy, water cooling is about aesthetics. I've kind of got to the opinion now, with Haswell anyway, because the boards are all so good now that they can all get the best out of the CPUs. When it comes to your choice, it really is about so very, very minor things. Performance really isn't one of them. It's about, like I've said, package, maybe what IO it is. Do you need more SATA ports? Are you that fussed about multiple graphics cards in the not too distant future? If you are, would you buy one? You'd want to buy one with 3 slots between, so that if you're air cooling, that the graphics cards aren't going to be sandwiched together. It really does come down to that kind of level now. So that's it. As far as we're concerned now, what I'm going to say is it is better. It's on par with the rest now. The BIOS was wrong before. It's much better now. But if you're going to be looking to make these purchases, just consider your money, really, because just because you've bought a £300 motherboard doesn't mean that you're going to be any better or running any higher frames per second or any higher overclocks even than your mate that bought a £160 board. So all I will leave it as is spend your money wisely, peeps, and think about looks and plan your rig before you make your purchase. So with that, I'm going to love you and leave you. My jaw, because of all the talking, is now absolutely killing me, and I know I need another shower again because I'm so hot Saturday. It's just one of the things that my meds is killing me at the moment. But for now at least, a final big thank you to Linus for the video that he did. It's nice when someone kind of takes something that you've said, and it did cause a lot of controversy, and he's kind of weighed in with his own as well. For one of the biggest YouTubers out there to kind of take that type of thing that I said, and it did cause a lot of stink, and a lot of people said I was wrong, and said that the Maximus was the best thing since sliced bread. I think he's proven quite well that you can now see where I was coming from. So I'm going to love you and leave you. This is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out. Oh, I forgot.